June Kim paced nervously outside the grand marble doors of the Silari High Council chamber. His heart raced as he straightened his Navy diplomatic uniform for what felt like the 100th time. The hallway's crystal lights cast shifting shadows across his face, making the 28-year-old human look even more anxious than he felt. First human junior diplomat assigned to Xilarian Prime, and I've already been summoned by their leadership, he muttered to himself. That has to be a new record for potential disaster. The massive doors slid open with a soft hiss. A tall Xilari attendant with pale blue skin gestured for him to enter. Ambassador Kim, the council awaits, the attendant said in carefully practiced English. June took a deep breath and stepped inside. The circular chamber was breathtaking. Walls of polished stone that seemed to shift colors in the light, ceiling panels that mimicked the Xilari night sky, and at the center, a crescent-shaped table where 5 Xilari leaders sat watching him approach. Prime Minister Lena, immediately recognizable by her deep purple skin with silver patterns, rose to her feet. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, her 3 iridescent eyes blinking in sequence. A gesture June had learned indicated formal acknowledgement. Ambassador Kim, she began, her translator device converting her musical language to slightly robotic English. We appreciate your prompt response to our summons. June bowed slightly. It is my honor to serve as a bridge between our worlds, Prime Minister. The other council members murmured among themselves, their skin colors shifting rapidly, a form of communication June couldn't yet decipher. You have been on our world for 3 lunar cycles, Lena continued. In that time, trade has increased by 20%. Both our governments are pleased with this progress. June relaxed slightly. Perhaps this was simply a performance review. However, Lena's tone shifted. The alliance between Earth and Xilarian remains fragile. Our histories are too different. Our peoples too separate. The relaxation vanished as quickly as it had come. I assure you, Prime Minister, Earth is committed to. Words are easily spoken, interrupted another council member, his skin darkening to a stormy gray. The Xilari require more than promises. Prime Minister Lena raised a 6-fingered hand for silence. Our traditions are ancient. Ambassador Kim. When great houses wish to form lasting alliances, they do not rely merely on words or documents. She gestured toward a side door, which opened to reveal a younger female Xilari. She moved with graceful steps toward the council table. Her skin was lighter purple than the Prime Minister's, with delicate patterns that seemed to pulse with each step. My daughter, Hana, Lena announced. June bowed again, confused about why the Prime Minister's daughter was being introduced during what he'd assumed was a diplomatic meeting. Hana approached until she stood just a few feet from June. Up close, he could see that her 3 eyes weren't identical as he'd first thought. The central eye had flecks of gold that the others lacked. Our houses expect us to marry, human, she said simply, her voice soft but direct. June felt the blood drain from his face. I'm sorry, there must be a translation error. There is no error, Prime Minister Lena stated firmly. A union between our houses would symbolize the permanent nature of our planet's alliance. June struggled to maintain his diplomatic composure. This is unexpected. On Earth, marriages are personal choices, not diplomatic arrangements. Yet your history is filled with royal and noble marriages that secured peace between nations, another council member noted. That was centuries ago, June protested. For us, it is now, Hana said. Her skin rippled with patterns that suggested, was it amusement? Does the human ambassador find me unsuitable? No, I mean. June stumbled over his words. You seem that is, this isn't about suitability. Prime Minister Lena's skin darkened, then it is settled. The ceremony will take place in 3 days, following our ancient traditions. 3 days. June nearly shouted, then forced himself to lower his voice. Prime Minister, I must consult with Earth Command before making such a significant decision. Of course, Lena agreed. You have until sunset to communicate with your superiors. As June left the chamber, his communicator buzzed frantically in his pocket. His hand shook as he pulled it out to find an urgent message from Earth Command already waiting. Eyes only. Ambassador Kim. Intelligence indicates Silari marriage proposal imminent. Accept their terms. Alliance critical to Earth security. This is now your primary mission. Confirmation required immediately. Back in his quarters, June paced frantically, trying to process what had just happened. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts, a visitor at his door. It was Hana, now dressed in simpler clothing than the formal attire she'd worn in the council chamber. "May I enter?" she asked. June hesitated, then stepped aside. "Of course." She glided into the room, her gaze traveling over his sparse human furnishings with obvious curiosity. "I thought you might have questions," she said, settling onto the edge of a chair designed for human proportions. It looked comically small beneath her tall frame. "A few thousand," Jun replied with a nervous laugh. Starting with, "Is this really happening?" Hannah's skin flickered with quick pulses of light, her species equivalent of a smile. "It is, though I understand your shock. Were you told about this in advance?" "I've known since childhood that I would form a diplomatic union someday," she answered. "I did not know it would be with a human until recently." "And you're okay with that?" Her central eye fixed on him. "I serve my house and my people, as you serve yours. Is that not why you're here, Ambassador Kim?" June sank into the chair opposite her. "Call me June, please. If we're going to be married, titles seem a bit formal." "June," she repeated, the name sounding musical in her Silari accent. "I know this is not what you expected when you came to our world, but perhaps we can make it work to benefit both our peoples." He studied her for a long moment. "My orders are to accept, but I want to know, do you have any choice in this?" Her skin darkened slightly. "Would it matter if I didn't?" "It would to me." For the first time, Hannah looked genuinely surprised. "Interesting. Yes, June, I did have a choice. I chose to meet you. I chose to accept this arrangement." "Why?" "Because the stars are vast, and our peoples have much to learn from each other." She rose to leave. "Rest now. The preparations begin tomorrow." As the door closed behind her, June's communicator buzzed again with a final message from Earth Command. "Congratulations on your engagement, Ambassador Kim. Make us proud." The door to their new living quarters slid open with a soft hiss. June stepped inside, carrying his one bag of personal belongings. Hannah followed, empty-handed. All her possessions had been delivered earlier. "This will be our home," she said, gesturing at the spacious apartment that overlooked the capital city's central garden. The room was clearly designed as a compromise between their species. One half featured human-style furniture, a couch, a desk, chairs with backs. The other contained the low, nest-like cushions that Silari preferred. The lighting was softer than human standard but brighter than Silari norm. "It's nice," Jun said, setting down his bag. 3 days had passed in a blur of ceremonies and rituals he barely understood. His hand still bore the mark of their union, a silver band embedded with tiny crystals that seemed to pulse in time with his heartbeat. Hana moved to a control panel on the wall and adjusted several settings. The lighting shifted to a purple-blue spectrum, and the room's temperature dropped several degrees. "What are you doing?" June asked, already feeling goosebumps rise on his arms. "Creating a balance," Hana explained. "Half Earth standard atmosphere, half Silari. I cannot sleep in your yellow light. It disrupts my hibernation cycle." "Your what?" Hana blinked her 3 eyes in sequence, a gesture Jun was beginning to recognize as patience being exercised. "I will be unconscious for 14 Earth hours every 3 days," she said as if this were perfectly normal. "During this time, you must not disturb me or my skin will lose its protection against your atmosphere." June stared at her. No one mentioned hibernation cycles during the diplomatic briefings. There is much your briefings did not cover, Hannah replied. Her skin rippled with subtle patterns that suggested amusement. Just as I'm sure there are many human biological functions I will find surprising. As if on cue, June's stomach growled loudly. He hadn't eaten since the wedding ceremony that morning. Like that, Hannah said, her skin now definitely showing amusement patterns. The constant need for fuel intake. So inefficient. We call it hunger, June said, feeling defensive. And how often do you eat? Once every 6 days. Our digestive process is more thorough. She moved toward what appeared to be a kitchen area. But I have studied human nutritional needs. There is food prepared for you. The refrigeration unit contained neatly packaged meals labeled in both Silari script and English. June selected one at random. Something labeled protein blend with carbohydrate base. It looked like blue rice with purple meat. It smelled like nothing he recognized. This is human food, he asked skeptically. Human-compatible food, Hannah corrected. Grown in special facilities that replicate Earth conditions. Perfectly safe, though perhaps not perfectly familiar. June took a cautious bite. It tasted better than it looked. Somewhat like beef teriyaki with hints of flavors he couldn't identify. It's good, he admitted, surprised. Hannah's skin flushed with a pleased golden color. I selected the flavor profiles myself based on your public preference records. You researched my taste in food. I researched everything about you that was publicly available, she said matter-of-factly. Your academic records, your diplomatic training scores, your medical history. June put down his fork. My medical history is private information. Not to your spouse, Hannah replied. The marriage contract you signed granted mutual medical access. This is standard for auxiliary unions. June suddenly realized he had no idea what he'd actually agreed to during the ceremony. The translator had summarized the terms as standard marital obligations, and Earth Command had instructed him to sign without hesitation. Is there a copy of this contract I can read? He asked. Hannah gestured to a data pad on the coffee table. The full document is there. All 327 pages. 300. June choked on his blue rice. Most is standard legal language, Hannah assured him as she moved to a cabinet and removed a small metallic device. Though you might be particularly interested in sections 12 through 17, which cover the eternal nature of our union. Eternal nature, June repeated weakly. Hannah placed the device on her wrist. It beeped softly. Yes. Did your officials not explain? Silari marriages are permanent bonds. There is no concept of divorce in our culture. June felt his heart race, but surely there are exceptions for diplomatic arrangements. No. Her tone was gentle but firm. When Silari marry, our biochemistry permanently changes to accommodate our partner. The bond cannot be broken. She noticed his expression and added, the device I'm wearing now is monitoring my biochemical changes as they adapt to your presence. The process takes approximately 2 months. June sat heavily on the couch. So we're actually, truly, permanently married. Yes, June. For life. She hesitated, then sat beside him, careful to leave space between them. This disturbs you. It wasn't a question, but he answered anyway. On Earth, marriages can be ended. People make mistakes, circumstances change. And so your bonds are conditional, Hannah observed. Interesting. For us, the purpose of marriage is stability through absolute commitment. June stared at his wedding band, watching the crystals pulse. I don't even know you. That is true, Hannah agreed. But we have time now. A lifetime. That night, June found himself unable to sleep. The room's temperature and lighting kept shifting subtly in what he assumed was an automated program to balance their different needs. The bed, a compromised design, was neither comfortable nor uncomfortable, just foreign. He got up and wandered to the window. The city below glowed with bioluminescent light, beautiful in its alien way. Movement from the corner of the room caught his attention. Hannah stood there, watching him. I thought you'd be asleep, he said. I sensed your distress, she replied. Our bonding has already begun at a biochemical level. I can feel your stronger emotions. You can feel what I feel. Not precisely, but your anxiety produces chemical signals my body now recognizes. She moved closer. You are afraid. Not afraid, June corrected. Overwhelmed. Hannah's skin shifted to a soft, calming blue. Tomorrow my hibernation cycle begins. You will have 14 hours to yourself. Perhaps that will help. Perhaps, June agreed, though he doubted it. Before that, there is something you should see. She led him to a small room he hadn't noticed before. Inside was a device that looked like a telescope aimed at the night sky. Your star is visible tonight. June looked through the eyepiece. There, among countless alien constellations, was a bright point of light. Saul, Hannah said quietly. Your son. I had this installed so you would always be able to see your home. The gesture was so unexpected, so thoughtful, that June felt a knot in his throat. Thank you, he whispered. Hannah's skin glowed warmly in response. We are different, June Kim, but perhaps not as different as we think. June noticed the pattern 3 weeks into their marriage. Every time he showered, the drains would be cleaned immediately. When he trimmed his hair, the clippings disappeared before he could sweep them up. Even his used tissues vanished from waste bins within hours. At first, he dismissed it as silary fastidiousness. Their culture valued cleanliness to an extreme degree that made even the most hygiene-conscious humans seem slovenly by comparison. But then he caught Hannah collecting the hairs from his brush one morning. She didn't simply discard them. She carefully placed them in a small collection vial. What are you doing with those? He asked. Hannah's skin flickered with surprise, then settled into a calm lavender. It's cultural practice, she said smoothly. Keeping small parts of one's spouse is traditional. June raised an eyebrow. Like keeping a lock of hair in a locket. That's an old earth tradition, too. Yes, similar. Her central eye didn't quite meet his gaze. June had learned enough about ciliary physiology to recognize the signs. The slight darkening of her neck patterns. The rapid blink sequence of her third eye. Hannah was lying. He decided to watch more carefully. The next day, he pretended to enter his hibernation adaptation routine, a meditation practice Earth doctors had developed to help him adjust to the strange sleep cycle necessary for living with a ciliary spouse. Once Hannah believed he was deeply relaxed and unaware, she entered their bathroom and collected the water sample from his morning sonic shower. This wasn't tradition. This was collection. Over the next week, June documented every sample Hannah gathered. Hair, skin cells, saliva from his drinking cups. Once, she even requested a blood test, claiming it was standard procedure for off-world residents. He complied but took note when the medical technician filled an extra vial that went into a separate container. On the night of Hannah's next hibernation cycle, June waited until her breathing patterns indicated deep unconsciousness. Then he carefully slipped her access card from her robe and left their quarters. The diplomatic residence connected to several government buildings through underground tunnels. June had memorized the layout during his initial security briefings, but had never had reason to explore them, until now. Using Hannah's access card, he entered a service tunnel marked with ciliary script that translated roughly to Research Division. The corridor sloped downward, taking him deep beneath the city. The door at the tunnel's end required both the access card and a palm scan. June hesitated, then pressed Hannah's card against the reader and turned back, ready to find another route. Ambassador Kim, a voice spoke from behind him. You're out late. June spun around to face a female auxiliary scientist he recognized from government functions. Tay, he recalled, one of the younger researchers often seen in Hannah's company. I was just exploring, June said casually. I couldn't sleep. Tay's skin pulsed with patterns that suggested disbelief. Few humans explore restricted research facilities during rest cycles. June decided direct confrontation was his only option. What are you doing with my genetic material? Tay's third eye widened slightly. Surprise. You should ask your spouse. I'm asking you. Tay studied him for a long moment, then sighed, a very human gesture she must have learned from diplomatic interactions. I cannot discuss classified research, she said finally. But if you applied your diplomatic access codes to Terminal 47B, you might find public health statistics of interest. With that cryptic statement, she turned and walked away. June returned to their quarters, his mind racing. The next morning, while Hannah was meeting with her mother, he accessed the diplomatic database from his secure terminal. Public health statistics for Xilarian showed a disturbing pattern. Birth rates had declined 78% over the past century. The few children born often suffered from developmental issues. Population numbers were falling rapidly. The Xilari were dying out. When Hannah returned that evening, June was waiting with the data displayed on his screen. You shouldn't be here, she said when she saw what he was looking at. Neither should my DNA, June replied. Her three eyes blinked simultaneously, the Xilari equivalent of a sigh of resignation. Her skin faded to a pale blue. How much have you discovered? She asked. Enough to know your people are collecting my genetic material, not enough to know why. He gestured to the chair across from him. I think it's time for the truth. Hannah sat down, her posture stiff. My species is dying, she admitted. A genetic degradation has affected all Xilari for generations. Our scientists believe it began after the Great Migration, when our ancestors left their original star system. And human DNA comes into this how. Your species is remarkably adaptable at the genetic level, Hannah explained. Human DNA contains repair sequences that might help us restore damaged portions of our own genome. And nobody thought to just ask Earth for volunteers. June's voice rose with frustration. There are billions of humans. Many would happily provide genetic samples for research. The Council believed humans would weaponize this knowledge, Hannah said. They feared that once Earth learned of our vulnerability, they might exploit it or worse, engineer biological agents against us. So they arranged our marriage instead, to get unlimited access to my DNA. Yes. Hannah's skin rippled with patterns that indicated shame. The diplomatic marriage was proposed as a solution. We would gain access to human genetic material while maintaining the appearance of a cultural exchange. June leaned back, processing this revelation. So our entire relationship is a scientific experiment. Initially, yes. Hannah's hand reached tentatively toward his, stopping just short of touching him. But there's more you need to understand. She activated a small holographic projector from her wrist device. It displayed cellular structures June didn't recognize. This is standard Xilari cellular makeup, she explained, then switched the image. And this is mine, taken yesterday. Even to June's untrained eye, the differences were obvious. The second image showed cells with more complex structures, stronger membranes. Your DNA isn't just being studied, June. The marriage bond between us, it's real. My biology is literally incorporating elements of yours. I am changing at the cellular level. Is that safe? June asked, concern overriding his anger. It wasn't supposed to happen this quickly, Hannah admitted. The adaptation was expected to take years, not weeks. Something about your specific genetic structure has accelerated the process. And the Council knows about this. They know some of it, not everything. Her skin darkened with determination. I've been protecting certain research results from them. Why? Because their plans have changed. Some members wish to use this breakthrough not just for healing, but for enhancement. They speak of genetic superiority, of using human adaptability to create Xilari who could survive anywhere and potentially dominate other species. June felt a chill run down his spine, including humans. Yes, Hannah's skin now showed patterns of distress. I disagreed with this direction, but was overruled. So what now? June asked. Now we have a choice to make, Hannah said. I can help you contact Earth with this information, though it will likely lead to conflict between our worlds. Or, her skin flushed pink, a color June had rarely seen. Or we can find another way. Together. June stared at the message on his communication device. The words seemed to blur before his eyes as he read them again, hoping they might somehow change. Diplomat Kim June, your credentials are hereby revoked. Return immediately to Earth Embassy for extraction and disciplinary action. Failure to comply will result in charges of treason. Hannah entered their quarters and immediately sensed his distress. Her skin shifted to a concerned pale yellow. What happened? She asked. June handed her the device. Earth Command knows something. They're recalling me, but not for a debriefing. For punishment. Hannah's 3 eyes scanned the message quickly. Her skin darkened to ash gray, the sedlary color of fear. They know about the research, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. My mother contacted me an hour ago. The council is calling an emergency session. How could both governments find out at the same time? June wondered. Hannah's 3rd eye narrowed. Someone is playing both sides. We need to leave. Leave? Where would we go? Anywhere that isn't Earth or Xilarian. She moved quickly to a hidden panel in their bedroom wall and pressed her palm against it. The panel slid open to reveal a small safe. I've been preparing for this possibility. From the safe, she removed a data crystal, emergency cash cards for multiple systems, and 2 small devices June didn't recognize. Identity scramblers, she explained, handing one to him. They'll mask our biological signatures from standard scanners. You really did think of everything, June said, impressed despite the circumstances. I'm the daughter of the Prime Minister. I grew up understanding that security could collapse at any moment. She closed the safe and turned to him. We have perhaps 20 minutes before they lock down the diplomatic quarter. Pack only what you can carry in one bag. Jim grabbed his emergency kit, standard issue for all Earth diplomats, and added a few personal items. His wedding band caught the light as he moved, the embedded crystals pulsing rapidly in sync with his accelerated heartbeat. Where are we going? He asked as they finished packing. I have access to a small transport ship. It's registered to a research program, not to me personally. It should get us to Stellar Junction. The trading post. That's crawling with bounty hunters and criminals. Also refugees and those who ask no questions, Hannah countered. We need allies, June. People who operate outside official channels. They moved quickly through the residence corridors, using Hannah's access codes to bypass the main security checkpoints. The small hangar bay housed several vehicles, including the sleek research vessel Hannah had mentioned. Halt. The command echoed through the hangar just as they reached the ship. 4 auxiliary security officers blocked their path, weapons drawn. Step away from the vessel, ordered the lead officer, his skin dark with authority patterns. Prime Minister Lena has ordered your detainment, Hannah. Hannah straightened to her full height. On what charges? Theft of classified research materials. Conspiracy against the council. The officer's gaze shifted to June. And unauthorized genetic experimentation with the human. That research is mine, Hannah said firmly. I led the project. The results belong to the auxiliary people, countered the officer. Not to you alone. June noticed Hannah's hand moving slowly toward her pocket. She was planning something. He needed to create a distraction. Maybe we can discuss this reasonably, June said, stepping forward with his hands raised. I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding. As an Earth diplomat, former diplomat, corrected the officer. Your government has disavowed you. Then I have nothing to lose, June replied, and lunged forward. His Earth diplomatic training had included basic combat techniques, but he'd never excelled at them. Still, the sheer surprise of a human attacking gave him an advantage. He tackled the lead officer, sending them both crashing to the ground. Chaos erupted. The other officers moved to assist their leader, momentarily forgetting Hannah, which proved to be a critical mistake. She threw a small device that exploded in a flash of blinding light. June, who had closed his eyes at the last second on Hannah's shouted warning, rolled away from the stunned officer. "The ship. Now," Hannah called. They raced up the boarding ramp. Hannah's fingers flew over the control panel, bypassing normal startup procedures. The engines hummed to life as the hangar doors began to close. "They're sealing us in," June said. "Not quickly enough." Hannah pushed the throttle forward. The ship shot toward the narrowing gap, scraping its sides but making it through. Alarms wailed as they broke atmosphere. The ship's scanner showed 2 military vessels launching in pursuit. "Can we outrun them?" June asked. "No," Hannah admitted, "but we can outmaneuver them." She guided their ship toward a dense asteroid field that surrounded the planet's smaller moon. The military vessels followed, their superior speed closing the gap rapidly. "They're firing warning shots," June reported, watching the scanner. "The next ones won't be warnings." Hannah's skin had gone almost white with concentration as she weaved through the asteroids. A blast rocked their ship, sending June sprawling across the cabin. "Shield damage at 40%, the ship's computer announced calmly. "We can't take another hit like that," Hannah said. June pulled himself back to the co-pilot's seat. "Let me try something." During his diplomatic training, he'd spent countless boring hours in spaceflight simulators. It had been his escape from endless policy briefings. "Switch to manual controls," he said. Hannah looked skeptical, but slid the control yoke to his side of the console. June took a deep breath, and then executed a maneuver that would have been suicidal for most pilots. He cut power completely. The ship went dark, drifting toward a large asteroid. The pursuing vessels, unable to detect them without power signatures, sped past their position. "Now," June said. Hannah restored power, and they shot away in the opposite direction, using the asteroid field for cover until they could make the jump to faster-than-light travel. "Where did you learn to fly like that?" Hannah asked, her skin showing patterns of both relief and admiration. "Flight simulator games," June admitted with a half-smile. "I never thought they'd actually be useful." Hours later, they arrived at Stellar Junction, a massive space station that served as a neutral trading post. The station was a chaotic mixture of species, technologies, and cultures, easy to disappear in. They found lodging in a lower section frequented by cargo workers and small traders. Their room was tiny and didn't accommodate Silari physiology well, but it was anonymous. "I've contacted my cousin Nina," Hannah said as they settled in. "She oversees a remote research outpost that disagrees with the Council's methods. She's willing to help us, but can't reach us for at least 2 local cycles." "Can we survive that long?" Jim asked. "We have currency and supplies. The greater risk is discovery." Hannah's skin shifted thoughtfully. "We should gather allies while we wait." The next day, they ventured into the station's bustling markets. June was fascinated by the diversity. Species he'd never seen before in diplomatic settings mingled freely, trading goods from across the galaxy. "Don't stare," Hannah whispered. "It marks you as an outsider." Too late. June noticed 3 rough-looking figures following them through the crowd. Not Silari or human, but a species he recognized from security briefings. Vordian mercenaries, known for taking any job for the right price. "We're being followed," he murmured. "I know," Hannah replied calmly. "Turn left at the next junction. Be ready." The moment they turned the corner, the mercenaries made their move. The largest one stepped forward, a weapon visible beneath his cloak. "We can do this quietly or messily," he growled in accented common. "There's a nice bounty on both your heads." June felt adrenaline surge through his system. Without thinking, he dropped into a fighting stance, years of Earth combat training taking over. What happened next surprised everyone, especially Hannah. June moved with unexpected speed, ducking under the first mercenary's grab and delivering a precise strike to a vulnerable spot on the alien's neck. The mercenary dropped, gasping. The other 2 rushed him simultaneously. June kicked one in the knee joint, then used the mercenary's momentum to throw him into his partner. Both crashed into a market stall. Seconds later, all three attackers lay groaning on the ground. "We should go," June said calmly, taking Hannah's hand. Her skin was flashing bright gold, the color of surprise and admiration. "Your species is physically weaker than most," she noted as they hurried away, "but remarkably adaptable in combat." "Thanks, I think," June replied with a small smile. Back in their room, Hannah treated a cut on his arm. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" "Standard diplomatic security training," June explained. "I never excelled at it, but I guess when your life depends on it." Hannah's skin pulsed with warm colors. "Perhaps there is more to this marriage of convenience than either of our governments anticipated." 3 months after their escape, June and Hannah stood on the observation deck of the frontier colony New Haven. Below them stretched a landscape of purple mountains and turquoise fields, with the colony's main settlement nestled in a protected valley. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. "Hard to believe this is home now," June said quietly. Hannah's skin rippled with soft blue patterns of contentment as she stood beside him. "The old council has been dissolved," she told him. "My mother sent a message this morning. She has been appointed temporary leader until new elections can be held." "And the charges against us?" "Dropped," Hannah replied. "The evidence we gathered about the unauthorized genetic research and the conspiracy to weaponize it was too compelling for either government to ignore." The data crystal Hannah had taken from their quarters had contained more than just research notes. It had recorded every council meeting discussing the weaponization program, along with communications between corrupt officials on both planets who stood to profit from potential biological weapons. When they had broadcast this evidence across both systems, the public outcry had been immediate and overwhelming. The conspiracy had collapsed within days. "My mother sends her apologies," Hannah added, "and her blessing for our union." "Better late than never," June replied with a small smile. He looked out at the new colony world they now called home. After the scandal broke, Earth and Solarian had jointly established a new scientific exchange program to study genetic compatibility in a transparent, ethical manner. As the program's first directors, June and Hannah had been given their choice of assignment. They had chosen this frontier world, far from the politics of either homeworld, but positioned to serve as a bridge between them. "The first research teams arrive tomorrow," June noted. "Are you ready?" "I was born for this work," Hannah replied. Her skin glowed with purpose. "And now we can conduct it openly, without secrets." Their new research facility stood at the edge of the settlement, a gleaming structure of glass and metal designed to accommodate both human and Siluri researchers. Already, scientists from a dozen other species had applied to join the program. June took Hannah's hand, something that had become natural over the past months. When they had first met, such casual contact had seemed impossible. Now, it felt strange to be apart. "There's something else I need to tell you," Hannah said. Her skin began to ripple with blue-green light, the color of nervous anticipation. The genetic therapy was successful, but with unexpected results. "What do you mean?" She guided his hand to her abdomen. "I am carrying life. Our life. Something the scientists thought impossible." June stared in wonder, his hand gentle against her. "How?" "It seems human adaptability exists at the cellular level too," she said. Her skin now glowed with the gold pink of joy. "Your DNA didn't just heal our genetic damage, it opened new possibilities." "A baby," June whispered. "Our baby. The first of its kind," Hannah confirmed. "A true bridge between our peoples." The medical scans had confirmed what should have been biologically impossible, a viable hybrid embryo carrying genetic markers from both species. The child would have elements of both human and Siluri physiology, though exactly how those elements would manifest remained to be seen. "This changes everything," June said. "Not just for us, but for both our species." "Yes," Hannah agreed. The council feared human adaptability as a weapon. They never considered it might be our salvation instead. That evening, they hosted a small gathering in their new home. Hannah's cousin Minna was there, along with the human scientists who had helped clear their names. They shared a meal that combined dishes from both worlds, a symbol of the union they had forged. To new beginnings, June proposed, raising his glass, and unexpected journeys, Hannah added, her skin glowing with happiness. Later, as they prepared for sleep, Jum found himself studying the marriage band on his wrist. The embedded crystals now pulsed in perfect time with Hannah's biorhythms, a visible sign of their bond. "When I first arrived on your world," he said, "I never imagined this outcome." Hannah's skin showed patterns of amusement. Being eternally married to an alien. Being eternally grateful for it, he corrected. 6 months later, their child was born. A daughter with June's dark hair and Hannah's iridescent eyes. They named her Mina, after the cousin who had helped save them. Her skin showed subtle color patterns when she was emotional, though less pronounced than full Xilari. She had 5 fingers instead of 6, and only 2 eyes, but they shifted color with her moods. Word of the birth spread quickly through both civilizations. Scientists were fascinated by the implications. Politicians saw opportunities for closer relations. But for June and Hannah, their daughter represented something more personal, proof that differences could become strengths. On the day of Mina's naming ceremony, representatives from both Earth and Solarian attended. The human ambassador presented a gift, a small telescope, similar to the one Hannah had installed in their first home, so June could see Earth's sun. "So she will always know both her worlds," the ambassador said. The Xilari representative, Hannah's mother, presented a traditional family pendant that had been modified to include symbols from both cultures. "For the child who bridges stars," she said formally. That night, after the guests had departed, June and Hannah stood on their balcony with their sleeping daughter. The night sky above New Haven was brilliant with stars, including the distant points of light that were their original home systems. "When the council first proposed our marriage, they called it a diplomatic arrangement," Hannah said, "a necessary sacrifice for the greater good." "And now?" June asked. "Now I understand it wasn't sacrifice at all." Her skin glowed with the deep colors of love, a pattern June had learned to recognize well. It was the beginning of something neither of our worlds could have imagined. Mina stirred in her sleep, her tiny fingers closing around one of June's. Even asleep, her skin showed faint patterns of contentment. "Eternal marriage doesn't sound so bad anymore," June whispered. Hannah's skin pulsed in agreement. "This is just the beginning, human." As the twin moons rose over their new world, they stood together, not as human and Silari, not as diplomat and scientist, but as a family. Their unexpected union, born of politics and desperation, had become something neither world could have engineered, a true bond that transcended species. And in Mina's peaceful face, they could see the future, not just their own, but that of 2 civilizations learning that their greatest strengths lay not in isolation, but in combination.